wonderful Thursday night, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We're grateful to have you. This is September the 11th, 2025, and 24-year anniversary of the terrorist attacks that hit our nation 24 years ago. We did a little live scope earlier tonight on Facebook with a few thoughts, and we got a lot more thoughts tonight. It's always good to see my buddy. We haven't had him on camera in a long time, and I mean this sincerely. I joke around with Eric a lot, but I think he's aware how much respect I have for him, and I feel like with everything going on in the country, we needed to see his face. I'm not going to say good-looking face because that'd give him the big head, and then that shine on that bald head is going to blind us all. So I got to be careful with my wording there. But no, it's good to see you, buddy. You know, and I have to tell you, I'm being honest. It's just been a dark 24 hours for our country, and you know, I've been telling everybody that we need to tell the people we care about, our friends, our loved ones, our family, to get switched on. And we need to tell them we love them, and we need to be very cognizant of them more than we've ever needed. I saw James Wood post something today, and it was so precious. He said he thanked his followers. He said, I got 5 million followers, and I'm just 4,999,998 behind him. But he did say this, and I think it was true. He said, I want to thank you now because I've got a feeling with the way things are going, we're going to need each other in a way that we've never needed each other in these days ahead, because these things that happened yesterday, Eric, are going to happen again, I'm afraid. And I think he's right. And, buddy, I tell you, people like you are invaluable to me, and just, you know, your wisdom and things. And I want to tell you thank you for your service to this country and what you're doing now, and trying to keep us switched on, man. And it's good to have you tonight. Always a pleasure, buddy. Good to see you.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be on with you, Chris. And I thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts, as I have so many times in the past, relating to our national security, our international security as well, and what we need to do to stay happy, stay safe, and live a good life. And, you know, over these last, God, you could say decade or more, America's been a country obsessed with crime. And we all have to ask ourselves, why is that? Why is America obsessed with crime?
So true.
And many other nations are not obsessed with crime. And that's a tough question that we all should be asking ourselves tonight, and reflect on that question. Why is America obsessed with crime, and what can we do to fix it?
That's a great question, buddy, and I don't have an answer for that. It's spiritual. I do have an answer, but the answer is spiritual, and most wouldn't want to hear it. But beyond the spiritual part, which is really the only real part that matters, I don't think you can fix this any other way. When you heard this news yesterday, you know, I texted you. I was texting you yesterday afternoon, and it was shocking. I was getting ready. Actually, I had just sent a pre-recorded program into my radio show in the afternoon. I couldn't be there live yesterday, and this thing had happened around 12:30. With the news of it, sort of started hitting the internet around 2, right at the time I went on, and then it was like a numb feeling, Eric, you know, with us being a day before 9/11, and it felt like I wasn't alive when JFK got shot, but, you know, most people talk about the JFK assassination. I'm going to tell you, I think this assassination yesterday is going to live with us for our lifetime. We're going to remember this day for years to come, because we lost a not just a patriot, we lost a Christian martyr. We lost a young man that was reaching the young people more so than any human being that I've ever seen in my lifetime be able to get in these kids' head and get them to think about their values and get them to think about what they were believing. And he did it very kindly at times. There were times he had to be forceful, but he stood his ground. He tried to be as respectful as he could, and it was met with death. It was met with hatred, and it was terrible. But what was your thoughts when you heard the news yesterday that Charlie Kirk had gotten killed like this?
Yeah, I think for me, it's feeling like, although I was born a few years earlier, it feels like 1968 with RFK and and Reverend Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King, same time. Yeah, it was around the same time. It sure was.
And it feels similar to me that our nation may go through similar effects of that era. And I hope and pray that it's a pivot to back to a nation where we were able to pray, go to church, and about family values, about law and order. I hope that our nation becomes better, that we become, if I may say, we become a nation obsessed with crime. And I ask that question, why? Why is that? And is it because we've become a fatherless society? Is it because we become a godless society?
All the above.
Is it because our criminal justice system has been distorted, and we have judges who allow criminals on the street, and then we have politicians who call for the defunding of police? Is it because our educational system is not educating our youth properly? And I think all what I just listed has a deep effect on our country. And here we are today. We're talking decades of this liberal, communist, if you will, philosophy in schools, in our criminal justice system, and we're all paying the price for it today.
We are, and let me ask you this. We're 24 years out from 9/11. I didn't realize I was older than you for some reason, Caron. I thought you were like my granddad or something. But anyway, you and my brother are the same age. I'm trying to add a little bit of levity to the program tonight because we got a dark time. But man, I tell you, it's been a rough day. It's been a rough couple of days in the country.
Yeah.
But you think about what you just said and the decades of liberalism, and and I heard somebody this morning. I was listening to an interview with somebody on Fox, and they were talking about the very thing you just brought up about the '60s. And they were talking about how that we think this is all bad. I mean, we think that, our country is in a very bad place with violence and things. And yes, it is. But I think that for the older folks that lived during that time in the 1960s, people were getting shot left and right, man. I mean, the left was at it then. And, and you look at how they did people like John F. K. and they did people like Martin Luther King. Medgar Edwards was another one that tried to stand up for civil rights, and they gunned him down in Mississippi in '64. And there was just a lot of turmoil, the Kent State University shootings and things like that, and the George Wallace era. And man, this country, look, this is nothing new to America. The devil has fought this country. And I think all the reasons that you gave about the spiritual part, the criminal justice part, but the fatherless part, when the home started being ripped apart and the man's role in a home started being attacked by the women's lib movement, and the liberals started believing that they could tinker with society and tinker with the homes and tell people and men what to do instead of us listening to God and letting Him tell us what to do, I think that's when the country started going down. But what's made it seem so different in this time compared to the '60s is what we're doing tonight, is this internet. Because everything is in seconds. Like, you do something, and it's over the world, man. In 10 minutes, it is circulated all over the world in minutes because of the internet and the sharing it. And then you've got tens of millions of people that are adding to the rhetoric, and they're adding to the heat, they're adding to the anger, they're adding to the hate. I've seen some of the most vile stuff today that the left has posted. It has made me sick to my stomach. I've literally wept. I sit on my sofa and wept this afternoon thinking of how Charlie Kirk's family, if I was his family, And I put myself in their place for a few minutes, and I read these comments, how it would make me feel if that was my brother, if that was my son, if my wife died in this manner, and somebody was writing those things about her. I would be broken and angry and upset that people would take such vile shots at my loved ones. The left just acts like it's no big deal. They're mocking him, Eric. They're not just saying things vile, man. They're mocking him in death tonight that was shot dead by an assassin's bullet. That's the difference, the difference in the dynamic tonight than it was 60 years ago.
Yeah, it says volumes to the state of affairs in our country. Our country is divided. It's been divided for many years. And, you know, the Democrat Party's been hijacked, if you will. This is not the JFK Democrat Party of the 1960s. It's been hijacked, and no one that I see or hear from on the Democratic Party side has spoken up against this rhetoric of Maxine Waters and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and many others calling our president Adolf Hitler and other names, demonizing him, pushing, and then on top of that, pushing the whole DEI on our schools and our country. You know, the most of the kids, you know, it's fun. I know someone who teaches at an elementary school, and she told me recently that about 25% of the school's population is on some type of drug.
I don't doubt that.
ADHD, hormonal, sex altering, whatever. But we have about 25% of this particular school on some type of drug. So we have some serious problems in America these days, and it's not going to change overnight. You're absolutely right. What we saw yesterday and what we've seen over the last few years will continue because we've opened the borders to millions of criminals who are here on top of the criminals, you know, homegrown terrorists, if you will, homegrown criminals that we have here in America, plus mental illness, plus our politicians who are supposed to be the adults in the room, statesmen,
that's true,
who are calling for violence.
Come on.
And so I don't, unfortunately, I don't have, I mean, I'm hopeful, but the next few years will continue to be, I think, will be trying times for America.
Are you concerned that conservatives did yesterday open a new frontier on the danger on conservatives like Charlie Kirk?
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro tonight's out there saying he's going to take up the mantle at these schools. But do you think now it's open season on anybody that gets out in that public and publicly says things that go against the grain of this LGBT, this left, liberal, woke, demonic theology of death? It's a cult of death, Eric. It is a cult of perversion. It is a cult that has changed the definition of everything godly, everything normal, and they have literally turned this whole world into this lie. It's really taken the truth of the truth of man and the truth of our existence and turned it into a lie. And anybody that stands up against that, I believe there's an open season tonight against people of faith. And see, that's the thing. Charlie Kirk was a man of faith. I don't no more believe that this had anything to do with his politics. I know this, and I'm going to ask you about the kid in a minute. I believe this was an attack on people of faith. This was what is coming. They are going to open the floodgates on people that believe in the God of heaven. And brother, I'm going to tell you something. Yourself and others that have been on these front lines already. I just think we all better be understanding there's a target on our back tonight. If there wasn't one before yesterday, there's one tonight. There's one tonight.
Of course. Listen, I mean, all of us can understand this is an attack. An attack on him, Charlie Kirk, was an attack on all of us. Because he was simply exercising his freedom of religion, if you will.
That's right.
His freedom of speech, his First Amendment. And we do have individuals, unfortunately, there's probably a good 2% of the population or more who are against people like him. 2%. But that's a lot of people. And we have politicians, again, who are stoking the flames of hate.
And the media. And the media, too.
Of course. And I know, you've been, people have attempted to silence you, attempted to silence me. The cancel culture was alive and well under Biden. It started under Barack Obama, but I can tell you that, I've told you this personally, privately, that I was passed over on jobs because of my political views. And so the threat will continue as long as we allow it. And we, as the good people of America, need to stand up and say never again and start to take back its country. And not in a violent way, but in a peaceful way. And we need to start telling our elected officials, we need to hold these people accountable, these judges accountable, these prosecutors accountable,
Come on, Eric.
these politicians accountable,
Come on.
these speakers accountable, these other mayors and governors accountable when they speak about violence and they when they encourage violence. Because yes, there are mentally ill people out there who will commit acts of violence when they hear a governor or when they hear a politician call an individual Adolf Hitler. And so, yeah, words do matter.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I want to ask you let's get down to the nitty-gritty about the shooter. Yeah. There's some breaking news I want to just share with the folks tonight that we do know. They found the weapon today. They've got a third suspect now that they're looking for, a person of interest. He's dressed in black. He is. There's been several videos. TMZ tonight released a video of him limping. He was walking down the street in the neighborhood near the college where he was limping, and there's been debate whether that was the weapon, or some people believe he may have been injured getting off that roof. But this image that TMZ put out was before the shooting. So there is some movement in the investigation. I want to ask you a question. You're a federal agent, and you deal with firearms. The conventional wisdom since last night, I've read several articles that say that they believe this was an organized hit, a organized, calculated hit by a sophisticated weapon, and that this kid, whoever he is, had to be trained very strongly in weapons. And I heard other FBI agents tonight sort of backtrack on that, and they said the kind of rifle that was used, he shot Kirk from 200 yards out, that he did not have to have that kind of skill that people are claiming he had to have. I'm going to ask you, what is your opinion? Do you think this kid is a lone wolf, or do you think that this is another the killer from Butler, Pennsylvania? Eric, we still ain't got answers on that assassination attempt from Trump. I'm so fed up of hearing about Epstein. I don't care about Epstein no more. I want to know what the FBI, the CIA knew about that killer in Butler, Pennsylvania. Because you know something? The similarities of the two events are very similar. They both wound up on roofs shooting at people from distances with long-range rifles.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on all that?
So let me just say this. To me, this wasn't his his first time holding a rifle.
Okay.
Right?
Fair enough.
I mean, I've shot rifles, I've handled handguns and rifles and other weapons for many years. And it certainly takes, maybe I'm a little slower than the average bear, but it took me some months, years to be extremely proficient with a long gun, handgun. That's the drawing of the weapon, that's the aiming of the weapon, that's the hitting of the target. Where are you hitting the target, in the head or the chest? It takes proficiency. Now, again, was he praying for 6 months? Did he praying for a year? But there was certain proficiency that he had in shooting that weapon and striking the target where he hit the target.
So you're of the thinking that this kid was trained, that he was not some amateur with that weapon.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
fair enough. Okay.
I am
good
for sure. I mean, he definitely. Now, was he self-taught? Did he go to the range and have other people teach him? But he was certainly proficient in that long gun. It takes some skill. Was he training for 10 years? No. Was he training for months, if not a year? I bet you any money that it certainly wasn't his first time holding that rifle.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you think he had help? Do you think this was a lone wolf? Do you think there's, because I want to caution the audience tonight, folks. I know that you want to think you know who's behind this. Nobody knows who's behind this. Not yet. But we never found out who was behind the shooter in Butler either. And to speculate, I think, is just a disrespect to Charlie Kirk tonight, because I just want to get to the fact of the killer that did it. He needs to fry. He needs to freaking fry in an electric chair. I got no sympathy for him tonight. And he took something away from this country, Eric, that cannot be replaced. And again, what I'm trying to get at you with, and to get inside the head of this killer, and maybe you can help me.
Yeah.
Are we looking at a 23-year-old disgruntled kid that hated Charlie Kirk so much he was going to kill him? Or do you see something that's even more nefarious and other forces were behind this kid? I firmly believe there were other forces behind the kid in Butler. I do. I've always believed that he did not act by himself. There was so much stuff and evidence that got torn up. And the second they cremated the kid, you couldn't get an answer. Biden and his bunch made sure that kid was gone quicker than the Titanic went down to the North Atlantic. So what's your thoughts about this situation?
Here's my thought, Chris, on this particular shooting. Okay, it appears he was the lone shooter. It looked pretty obvious, right?
Right.
That being said, though, did other people have knowledge of the pending event?
Okay.
And that was he part of a group, if you will, of some type of radical group, small, large, who knows, that he was part of, and that encouraged him to act. And, everything from, again, who provided the weapon? Who bought the weapon? Where did he live? His social group, et cetera, et cetera. And my point is, who else had knowledge that this individual was going to act? And did they report it to the authorities? And if they didn't, why not? And so the lone wolf, if you will, theory, okay, in the simpler way, yeah, he was the man that pulled the trigger. But were there supporters who had knowledge and maybe encouraged him to act? And, again, I go back to maybe it's a politician that he's been watching. Maybe he was, pick a politician that he is, fascinated with. And and he's heard the governor of Illinois or Barack Obama or other politicians talking about Charlie Kirk and how he's evil, and so this, I'll call it conspiracy, may involve other individuals directly or indirectly, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right. On a scale of 1 to 10, do you think that if he wasn't acting alone, do you think he's alive tonight? Because, see, there's rumblings that I heard one FBI agent said tonight that people like this, if somebody has paid him to do it, a lot of times these missions are suicide missions, that they go in knowing good and well they're going to get caught, but they're not going to let getting caught be tied to the people above them. I know that's a weird question, but if he is, see, I should be a federal agent. I'm thinking like a Fed would think. If he is not working by himself, would it be wise to say that there's a possibility that this kid is probably going to go out the cowardly way? I got another word for it, but this is a family show tonight. That he's going to be a coward about it and kill himself, because I think the kid in Butler was on a suicide mission. I don't think that he ever intended to leave that roof alive. Do you think we got something like this, or do you think this kid's different?
I think it's 50-50, Chris. Really.
Okay. All right.
I do. I do think that it's possible that he is, he committed suicide, if you will, and he's in a house or in a friend's house, a family's house, or in, hiding out in the woods someplace, and decided to end his life. Or is he, in hiding in the hopes of escaping to Canada or another city? It's possible, but I think it's a matter of time before the net, if you will, the drag net is certainly closing in. We pretty much have them identified already. I venture to say that these pictures, I feel confident that they got him identified.
Okay.
And then within the next, I would think, 48 hours, we should have a name, if not a body.
Well, I've got the image of him up here on the screen, that one that they got, and it was blown up where he was walking to the event. And this person, they've got a press conference going on right now, actually, with the FBI, with Patel and the governor of Utah. If you were profiling this kid, they have
their DNA. They have their DNA. Yeah, they have his probably DNA from the rifle. They have his fingerprints, the palm print. So I venture to say they know who this guy is.
Why do you think they're not releasing his name, though? Because if they released his name, that would flush him out of his hiding place, wouldn't it?
I would think. I was a little. I didn't understand why yesterday, and even this morning, be it 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever, why the Bureau did not release these images that they had sooner rather than later. I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't have released these images to get the public's help. Because they've had it, and they shared with us yesterday afternoon at 6 o'clock that they believe the shooter was a young or college-age individual, and they're looking at video now at that time at like 6 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So I'm just wondering why they didn't release images of the shooter earlier rather than 24 hours later.
Well, the point, and there's a good point by Kiwi, she says that he only fired one shot, and that means one of two things. He was confident, or he was only targeting Kirk, because in most cases, Eric, I'll just use the shooter in Minnesota at the school, because we hadn't talked since the transgender shot up the school killed the two kids. He went in there, and he just started spraying bullets in the school. He didn't care who he killed. He wasn't targeting those two kids. He was wanting to do a mass casualty thing. This was different yesterday. This kid where he was at, and that crowd that Charlie Kirk was there, He could have kept shooting, man. Once he shot Kirk, he could have started shooting, and there could have been multiple deaths with this. He could have had weapons, plural, if he wanted to do something deadly. So, what does that say to you as a federal agent? If you were profiling this kid, what does that say to you that he only took one shot? It's a good question.
Well, this was a political assassination.
It
right?
was a political assassination, brother. Absolutely, it was.
And he had one individual and one individual in mind only. And I venture to guess that his security detail, this individual may have been known to the security detail, probably to the police, because my guess is there was some smoke, if you will, in this kid's background. Now, why? Again, the question is, why was this kid out on the street? Was he being monitored by his security team or the police? I think my guess is this individual probably has a history with Charlie, either writing letters, attending the event, stalking him. I'm going to say that this guy was probably known to Charlie, and he had obviously a vendetta against him.
So known to Charlie himself, or somebody that's been informed, because that was brought up tonight in one of the discussions. They believe that he had been at other events, and he definitely interacted with him at some point.
Oh, he did.
That's what they're saying. They're saying that they believe that he was probably upset that he had heard something at a previous Kirk rally. That don't surprise me one bit.
In the previous rally.
What's that?
Are you saying that the suspect that they have images of may have attended?
They're thinking that he may have been at previous rallies. Yes.
Well, that's what goes to my point. I didn't know that. It goes to my point that this individual probably has a history of some sort with him. And the question is, was he being, I'll say, babysat? Was he being watched? And if he wasn't, why not?
That's a good point, Eric. That's a good point.
Was he, let me just digress a little bit about his security details. People have to understand that detail is paid and brought on by him and his organization. The scope, if you will, of their ability to do security is really dependent on the client and his ability to, say, pay. This is not, so Charlie says we can make the recommendation to him to hire additional 10 bodies, but he says, I just want 6 bodies. I'm good with that, whatever the case may be. But people have to understand that this is not the local police or state police or federal police. These are private contractors like myself who are hired to protect an individual. But the client dictates to a large degree
what they do, what they can and can't
do, how many people they want. Do they want counter assault teams or counter sniper teams? That's going to cost them money. Do they want a drone? Why wasn't there a drone up? A drone would have, that for cheap money, a drone would have helped.
Well, to your point, let me interrupt just a second, interject this, not interrupt, but interject. To your point, we can't not forget Charlie Kirk was a normal citizen. Even though he had a huge following, he had a turning point outreach, ultimately he was a private citizen and he had his private security. And I've heard people complain yesterday about the security there. Charlie made the decision, Eric, to go into those campuses, and I respect him for it. Look, it's courageous to what he did, but it's not, you can't lay it on security. And like you just said, Charlie had to give the okay one way or the other. I'm not blaming him for this. Look, this is sickening. No. It's sickening. And can I just say it like this? It should not be that we have to have any security at these events, but we do. We can't even walk to the freaking mailbox these days. And I'm not being funny about this. My mailbox is around the corner. I live in a subdivision. We got a mailbox about half a block from my house or two. And even when I'm walking, I got my dog with me. Of course, my dog's the kind of dog she'd probably jump up in the attacker's lap and lick him before she'd attack him. But the thing is that I watch my surroundings, even in my own community. I'm always looking, and I don't mean to be paranoid, but Eric, it's just the country we live in, man. It's the society we live in. You can't even walk to your mailbox without needing security these days. And I sure tell these parents, I wouldn't be letting my kids play in the front yard without you being out there watching them. Because I tell you what, it's just an evil, sick world. And we witnessed evil in its ugliest form yesterday in Orem, Utah, with this assassination. This is pure evil and wickedness. It's nothing, you cannot shake it any other way. This was just absolute, pure wickedness and evil that was unleashed. The only thing that's worse is the media's response to it tonight, and these left-wing kids and these liberal kids that are mocking his death. That, to me, is more vile than even what happened yesterday. But go ahead. I didn't mean to but I wanted to interject that you're right. Private security firms have to do what the client tells them to do. They can suggest, you can say, look, I don't want you to do this, but it's ultimately that client that tells them what to do.
And they pay the bill.
And they pay the bill, exactly.
And so listen, I'm not saying, sitting here tonight with you, Chris, saying if they had 50 guys that on that detail, it would have prevented the tragedy. I don't know that to be the case, but people have to understand that it takes much resources, personnel, equipment to try to identify a threat and avoid the threat, if you will, and take the threat out. It's not, and as you know, and we all know, the President of the United States has Secret Service protection, and he still was, hurt, if you will. So it's, you're right. We should be able to go to these events, not live in fear. But it's a sad state of affairs right now in America that we have to live life with what's on. Identify, avoid, and escape.
Okay, got a question to you. Do you think that there is any? Have you heard the stories about what was supposedly planted on the magazines of this rifle again? Because it seems that they found the magazines again. I don't know if he was just sloppy or he did it deliberately. But Steven Crowder tonight has been subpoenaed by the ATF because he broke a story today that basically said that the word trans, and then it was some other statement on there about kill Kirk or whatever. It was blatant stuff. But he got a hold of a report from the ATF that said that there were trans slogans on those magazines again. What is it with these killers? This Minnesota killer did the same thing, Eric. He had all these ugly, demonic sayings on these magazines. What is that? Is that a pattern? Is that some kind of... And I don't mean to be facetious here tonight, but I'm just asking, is there some kind of kill club that they get together and they chat among themselves and say, okay, before you kill your victim, put all these crazy slogans on your magazines? This is nutty. It's almost identical to what happened in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at more than like half a dozen of mass shootings involving trans, and in the last few years, Chris.
I will say, not one quick second, and I'll let you keep going. This has not been confirmed. All I'm saying, it was reported by Crowder. He's been subpoenaed. The ATF was a leaked document supposedly. So we're not saying that this guy's trans because we don't know that yet. So I don't want people to think we're calling him that. But you're right. The trans theory, the trans river has run through a lot of these shootings, have they not?
Well, yeah, these mass shootings, for sure.
The mass shootings they have, yes.
Yeah. And again, is it rhetoric from our politicians? Is it all the drugs, if you will, that they're consuming for all these years? Mind-altering drugs that they've been consuming for a few years. that you know, who knows? I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but certainly these drugs that these trans people are taking have a certain altering effect on their psyche.
Yeah. What do you think is going to come out of this press conference tonight with the FBI?
I don't know. I see it going on right now.
What's your take on Patel? While you're answering that question, what's your take on Kash Patel as a former federal agent, as a fellow federal agent? You're former, but you're federal. You're still a part of the same group.
Yeah. Well, I was. I don't know. I mean, listen. Yesterday, I think there were some hiccups in that they said that they had a subject in custody.
Two of them. They arrested two, actually.
And, Kash Patel, I think it was around 6 o'clock if you were watching Fox. I think the headline was, FBI director says arrest has been made or subject in custody. I mean, I don't know. It seems like the Bureau has been a little slow, in my opinion. I'm hoping. I think the images of the shooters have been out within hours. I don't know why they were holding back on those images. I don't know a good reason why they would hold back. They waited 24 hours. So I don't know. I think there's some lessons learned here.
Fair enough, and I'll leave it at that. We got about 10 minutes with you, but if you got a question for Eric, folks, put it in the house and we'll ask him tonight. What did your Trump went to the Yankees game tonight and they honored Charlie Kirk, and I heard just a while ago that the Packers and Commanders, the NFL shows more class than the Dems. There was a moment today in the Congress, Eric, that Mike Johnson, Senate Majority Leader Mike Johnson, wanted to, or the House Speaker, I should say, Speaker Johnson, wanted to have a moment of silence and prayer for Charlie Kirk. The Dems started erupting into hatred and basically interrupting that. They didn't want it. The NFL tonight, which I've got very little respect for the NFL, but they at least showed some class tonight in Washington, D.C. They showed Charlie Kirk's picture in D.C. tonight, and the crowd there gave a moment of silence to him. And I applaud the sports world for recognizing. I applaud the Yankees. And I'm not a Yankees fan, but I tip my hat to them. I appreciate them doing that last night at Yankee Stadium. Trump's there tonight. Let me ask you this by extension to Trump. Let's bring this to President Trump. They've tried to kill him twice. Does he need to be more careful out in public now than he was before this last night?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't a fan, I think it was two nights ago when he walked into a restaurant.
I saw that, yes.
With Vance. That's probably not a scheduled stop, but it obviously, it makes him vulnerable to an attack. And he's got multiple protesters feet away from him. And, he's in an environment where my guess is those people in that restaurant weren't certs, who didn't go through a magnetometer. And we're talking, in the executive protection world, we talk about time and we talk about space. How long does it take for you to get to the bad guy? How long does it take for you to get to the good guy? And space between you and the good guy, bad guy. Those people are way too close to the president and JD Vance.
I'll agree. And I saw the video too, and I thought to myself, I sure hope the Secret Service is right there with you, close. Let me ask you, got a couple of quick statements out of the chat, and a great question from Stephen Fonahoy. This is excellent. Good to see you tonight, Stephen. And I want to read Corey Aguilar's statement. Stephen asked a wonderful question. He says, why do they allow people to climb on a roof during any live public event? They did it in Butler. You know, that's a great question. And I know the police, there were police there, and I know, granted, that they were not a big force. But, Eric, common sense has got to kick in. And, you know, there's videos out there, kids, that they were shooting the guy in the phone and saying, what's the guy doing on the roof? And somebody had to see that. And Stephen's question is the question of the year. Why do they allow people on the roof? They did it in Butler, and they did it yesterday, and that's where these killers go. Is that normal?
We're talking, again, personnel, resources to identify those threats.
Right.
200 yards away, that building was, it appears to be really outside the perimeter of the event. There was only, I think, the chief of police for the university said he had 6 uniformed officers on scene. He had several plainclothes officers in the crowd. They didn't have a big contingency of officers. And then my guess is there are probably 8 to 12 of his security agents on the ground.
Okay.
So no one's paying attention, very little, to the roof. Now, obviously, it's a great point, Chris.
It's an excellent point.
You would think, since Butler, people would pay attention and have eyes on, or a drone up.
Well, absolutely. And considering what happened a year and 2 months ago, Eric, if the second there was a whiff that there was somebody on the roof, it should have been ding, 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 ding. You got something going on there. I mean,
was that even brought to the attention of the authorities?
That's the 90% million question, because that's why I'm not going to be Monday morning quarterback in security, because maybe they didn't know it until it's too late. But I think his point's well taken, and there needs to be a renewed effort by police when you have these public events. Check the roofs, check the buildings around the venue, because the guy had a clear shot. I mean, man, that video yesterday was brutal. I want to say something that Corey Aguilar, Corey, good to see you tonight. She made a great point. She said, it's amazing how that it takes them forever to identify these suspects in these kind of killings, but they sure did identify the J6ers quickly, Eric. They had every one of them in jail by that night, did they not? I mean, my God, they were identifying the J6 folks, and we got a J6 family coming on next Tuesday night. It's going to be a great guest. But it's an excellent point. When they want to go after somebody and deal with somebody, they can get it quick. Why do you think they have delayed this? And again, I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking, because this is a very volatile situation, and I don't want to come across as I'm questioning the FBI or anything in their methods. But I'm with her. If you can get the J6 identity out, and you said they got the DNA, they got the thing, they got the weapon, why don't they just put his name out there? Because there's just something that stinks about that, because we just need to know the name, man. Just tell us who it is. We can handle it. We're Americans. We can handle it, can't we, bro? We're switched on, man. We're switched on. We're switched on. We're switched on life, according to Eric Caron.
That's right. Go to Switched On Life and learn how to stay safe.
I'm just saying.
Buy my book.
Buy your book, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, this is my point, where in the last 48 hours, the information is kind of dripping, drip out. And I appreciate, of course, an active investigation. You don't want to telegraph certain information so the bad guy understands your methodology, right? We get that. But if we have an image of the suspect, and we don't have him in custody for the first X amount of hours, pick a number, 6 hours. By midnight last night, you would have thought these images that we saw today at, I think, was it at 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
Right.
Those images could have been released hours prior. Like, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock the previous night. So you're right. The information's been slow to come out. And so we have his DNA. They've released photos. My guess, they know who this guy is. My educated guess. And my educated guess is they probably know where he lives. You hope they're they're about to do a search warrant on his house or his place of business. I'm saying within the next 24 to 48 hours,
we'll know something. But I got a question for you, police question.
You know who this guy is.
Not interrupted, but got a police question for you. Is it likely that you catch him quicker if you put his name out there because somebody probably knows his name, or does that give him a greater chance to escape? There was one of the videos where he was limping, and I'm trying to get my head around why, again, and the two suspect thing yesterday bothered me. And I'll tell you another thing bothered me. There were people on the right that had posted that old man's picture out there, and they were convinced that the old bald-headed guy that had his pants down to his ankles that they were hauling off the first was the killer. I mean, man, that man was convicted on X. If it would have been bad if that guy would have showed up at a bar, he'd have been dead because people thought he was the one that killed him, and he wasn't. Yeah. And then there was another one last night that they arrested or brought in. They had to release him. And now you've got this third kid, and 24 hours has gone by now. Almost more than that. It's almost 48 hours, 36 hours after the fact. But American Patriot has got the question also, a great question, and I'll let you go after this. It's very, very good. He says, what did he say there? He said, how do we move forward without stooping to the left level of a shooting war? In other words, how do we move forward without becoming the left? It's a great, excellent question. What's Eric Caron's thoughts on that? It's an excellent question. Because, see, Eric, to me, I think they're baiting us up. They want us to take to the streets and start firing back with our weapons, and then we got civil war, brother, and then you got martial law that follows after that. Go ahead.
I'm going to break out the T-shirt that I made over a year and a half ago, and it was it's time for a colonoscopy of Washington D.C.
Without a doubt.
And
without a doubt.
And so all our elected officials, local, state, federal, it's time to hold them accountable and cleanse them, if you will, and get rid of them because they're a cancer, many of them. And, I've asked the question, your communities, your cities, your towns, your state, any better off today than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? And we have lifetime elected politicians who have nearly destroyed our country. So I say, let's take our country back by using the voting booth, right? And start electing officials who put family, God, and country first, and not themselves. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I'll agree, buddy. A couple of other quick questions, and I may answer a few of these, but I think there's one that I want to ask, and it's very good. And Sandy Sutherland, she's asking about the drones. Do you think that they should employ drones with these events that could find these killers on these roofs beforehand? That's not a bad statement. The drone would be a way, but there's a question out of Facebook tonight, and I think Elaine Willard's question is a legitimate one. It does seem that justice is a lot more slower when the conservative or Christian is targeted as compared when a liberal. If this would have been a liberal commentator, do you not think that if the left would have been in charge, that somebody would have been in jail and probably hung by nightfall before the time was gone? Somebody would have paid the price for this. It does seem that they drag their feet when we as conservatives and Christians are the targets of this stuff. It may not be that way. Maybe it's just perception, but I think her point is well taken. It's actually well taken. It does seem slower for us. Any truth to that, or you think it's just the way we perceive it?
Well, we certainly hear over the last few years excuses that our politicians use to defend evil, like the killer in Charlotte, North Carolina, I think it was Charlotte, who basically, almost nearly beheaded the women on the train. And you heard people saying, well, he was mentally, he was a black man and he didn't get the help he needed over the years, and almost like making excuses for that attack. Yeah, I mean, it's America needs to wake up. That's the bottom line.
That's a given. That's a given.
And stop stop making excuses for evil. And there's no room to excuse the action at all. There's no, it was a horrific act, but he was a poor black man and he was mentally ill and he did not get the services he needed.
That's what we're hearing about the Charlotte killer. You're kidding on something. Go ahead, keep going.
Right. Why are we making excuses? Why are our politicians or media personalities making excuses for evil? And there shouldn't be any excuses for evil. And getting back to your drone question, yes, I think there's no reason why the drone couldn't have been up that day, yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, every police department, if they don't have one, should have one.
Yeah, I'll agree, man. Well, buddy, I'm going to let you go and say goodnight to these people. Any final thoughts on this tonight? You thinking 24, 48 hours we're going to have a name or what would happen? Let me give you a worst case scenario, okay? And get your take on this, and I'll let you give us a final thought. In the event that this nightmare situation becomes worse by this kid that we're looking at in this picture tonight with the glasses, winds up that he's not the one. The question that came up from Corey just a while ago, the FBI was offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to the suspect. And why would they do that if they felt confident this kid was the suspect? Is that a ploy that sometimes law enforcement does to put it out there? Or do you think that they truly don't know who they've got? Because there's been no arrest and there's been no names. They've got pictures. They're looking for him. Can't be that hard to find this punk. I mean, I'm being honest with you. I don't care if he's got glasses on or not. With the technology we got today, you can find these kids quick. But the question is legitimate, and it's food for thought. That why would they put a $100,000 reward to the public, and then say this kid is our person of suspect, the third one in 2 days? Because what happens, Eric, if we turn to find out this kid didn't do it? Where do we go from here? Because that opens up a big old can of worms that I don't know if we want to deal with, man. And I want to make it clear, I'm not questioning the FBI tonight. Look, I know they got a hard job. These are legitimate concerns, though, because you got a dead 31-year-old American patriot, Christian father, and husband that loved his wife, from what I understand, with all of his heart. Loved his kids with all of his heart. He loved his country with all his heart. But most of all, he loved his Lord Jesus Christ with all of his heart. And he's dead tonight because of somebody out there that had hatred because they just didn't agree with his politics. Somebody needs to be in jail yesterday. Go ahead. Wrap it up.
Well, I'm gonna stay hopeful, faithful that within the next 24 to 48 hours we have the individual identified. Okay. And will he be in custody or will he be dead? That's the question.
That's the question. That's the question. Were you okay with Trump going to the Yankees game tonight? If you were his security, I'll put it like this. If you were his security detail and Eric Caron was the head of his Secret Service, would you let him in within a million miles? And look, I don't believe he needs to cower down and not go out there in public. I don't want my president being that way. But that at venue, and see, it's not just Yankee Stadium in New York in general. And I know why he was there today, because today's 9/11, and I respect him and Melania for being there to honor 9/11. Joe Biden never did that in all 4 years of his presidency. He never even made any effort to recognize 9/11, none. So I'm glad he was there today. And I'm not trying to again nitpick and Monday morning quarterback. I just want my president to stay alive. And with everything going on right now, I'm telling you, man. And there was a report, and I had sent it to a few folks that the New York Police Department basically gave a special, directive. And if you'll give me 1 second here, I'll read this right here. Give me 1 minute, and I'll read this to you.
Homeland Security Bulletin.
Homeland Security Bulletin. They had a manhunt tonight for an individual. I'll just read this to you. He says there's been a credible threat received. Let me get my glasses on. There's been a credible threat received by NYPD of violence against members of service. Effective immediately, all units in Queens shall adhere to the following directions. They give them 5 things. This was issued tonight, roughly right before the ball game. It was probably about an hour or two before the ball game, and I'll just show you the guy's picture right there. They even had a suspect get it out of the light right there, and evidently he had made some kind of threat. If I was the Secret Service, I don't care if it was not directed at Trump, but if there was any kind of hint of a threat, he would not have been at that ball game tonight. That's just me. Am I overreacting to that, or is that being wise?
Well, that's the dilemma, right?
That is the dilemma. That is the dilemma.
We live in an open society, and the president wants to demonstrate he's not afraid, and he is the leader of the free world. So, but you make a valid point. It makes the job of protecting, the president that much harder at an open event like Yankee Stadium, where there's 60,000 people. And you have to mag every single person. And there are buildings around the stadium. There are drones that could be flown into the stadium. It's a difficult, Secret Service has a very, very difficult job. That, the bad guy has to be right once,
and they have to be right every time. That's so true. That is so true.
Secret Service has to be right every time, and you hope that they do their job and they do it well, and usually they do. But we see what happens when they don't. Mistakes happen and people get hurt. And this is, Charlie Kirk is another example of, I think, lack of resources, lack of equipment, and you might have, with those additional resources, drones included, maybe an ambulance standing by. There was no ambulance there. There's going to be a lot of lessons learned, and maybe additional resources and personnel may have prevented this from happening.
How much do you think that Kirk's pro-Israel stance fed into this? Because there's a lot of anti-Semitism in this country right now. And I've seen some of the most vile posts today. There was a guy that was a social media influencer, and he said he lost 6,500 followers in 15 minutes simply because he sent condolences to Kirk's family. And the vile comments that came in was they were calling him a Zionist, they were calling him a Jew lover. Man, it was like listening to a Hitler How to Win Friends and Influence People conference. I mean, I'm seriously, it was like something you'd hear out of a Nazi playbook, some of the comments. And Charlie was one of the most avid supporters of Israel, and he, made it clear at times that he didn't agree with Benjamin Netanyahu all the time. And look, it's fair. The government of Israel is not going to be perfect no more than our government is. But the vile anti-Semitism that has come from these social media influencers has been unreal. And I think that that this played into this a little bit more than we may be wanting to talk about it. Are you on board with that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This was a, you know, he was a Christian. He was, pro-Israel. He was not against DEI.
Pro-life.
He
pro-life.
checked all the boxes. He checked all the boxes of, if you will, of hate, and they came after him. And unfortunately, I feel will continue over the next months, years, to see the same effect. Thank God we have a leader in the Oval Office who takes law and order seriously.
Seriously, absolutely. Buddy.
And that's, the hope I think we have tonight. We have a president who takes crime seriously, and thank God for that.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you this. If all this wouldn't have been going on, I really wanted you to come on tonight and let's talk about 9/11 and 24 years later. If you don't mind, let me keep you over 5 more minutes. As you look at the landscape 24 years after 9/11, and we forget there's another 9/11 that nobody talks about today, and that's Benghazi. This whole crap that happened in Benghazi was laid at the foot of a video, and people claimed that the Muslims burned our embassy down and killed Christopher Stevens over some fake video that offended the Muslims, and some kid spent time in jail thanks to the Obama White House and the stupid Susan Rice and the evil, stupid Hillary Clinton at the time got on that tarmac and lied to the faces of these victims' families in Benghazi. I cannot believe that our government at that time that would stoop to such evil to cover their AWSs. And do you think that we have forgotten 9/11 24 years later? Do we understand that the threat tonight is within now? It's not so much without, but that same threat that tore those buildings down at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and that crashed that plane in Pennsylvania on that field, that those forces have now taken over Congress, that you've got those same kind of ideologies in our own halls of Congress, and the enemy, Eric, 24 years later, is not from planes. It's from within our Congress. It's from within our own government. They are trying to take over America, brother. What you say on that?
Well, we certainly saw under Barack Obama with open borders, if you will. We have individuals in our nation who came to America illegally under Barack Obama who are now elected officials. And the threat, not just domestically, but the threat, internationally is high. Osama bin Laden's son, one of his sons, is still alive in Afghanistan. He's vowed to retaliate against America. So we have the Afghan military, again, has in its possession billions of dollars worth of U.S. equipment that we left behind. God only knows what they're going to do with it. I'm sure that's not, it's not going to be used in a friendly way against us or others. So, the international terror landscape is not good, Chris. I
know. Have we forgotten it? Has it become just a distant memory, and we don't even think the threat is real anymore?
Yes, we have. Yeah, I think we're so self-absorbed as a nation. We're more concerned about our kids playing football and baseball and basketball and what our stocks. We've lost our way as a nation again. I think again, circling back to where we started earlier in our conversation, our nation is lost. Again, we are a fatherless society. We are a godless society. Our criminal justice system is weak. Our schools are teaching,
Judges.
and our borders have been wide open these last 4 years, and it's going to take some time for this new president to take care of that. And it's going to take some time, Chris. Unfortunately, it's going to take some years to, bring it back to the values we once had as a nation. It's going to take some time.
I'll agree, buddy. Good stuff, man. Buddy, I appreciate you, and I am so looking forward to seeing you this fall. We're going to be back up there, and I hope we'll connect. And listen, I'm going to try to come to your event at the end of the month. You want to tell everybody about that real quick? And we're going to try to make it. You're going to be speaking at a trafficking seminar, and I'd love to come and be part of that and cover it and interview some folks up there with you. But September 27th, I think you told me, in New Jersey
it's
City,
funny.
New
I don't
Jersey,
have the
right?
date right in front of me, Chris. I have to look. I'll give him.
Get the information to me, and I'll see you up there. But listen, I want you to know we appreciate you, and that's switchedonlife.com. Switchedonlife.com is his website, but he's got a great book, folks. A lot of you have told me you've gotten and read it, and it has blessed a lot of people. And you got an audio version of that coming out soon.
Yeah, it's been out. It's been out, Chris. It's on Amazon. And
okay.
Anybody who has the book,
okay.
I'd appreciate just a quick review on Amazon too. That helps.
You don't want me to give you a review, Caron, because I will. I will give you a great. I will give you a great review. I'm going to go in incognito in a fake profile and give you jazz about something just to give you jazz about it. You know that we're that kind of brother. We're like brothers. We're like brothers to the bone. We can do that, right? Oh, Lord have mercy. Listen, I appreciate you, buddy. It's good stuff tonight. Thank you as much as always. I'm going to say goodnight to these people. And thank you again for being with us tonight. And we'll keep us posted on anything. If you hear anything, we'll bring you back on. And we'll get you back on soon, okay? Bless you, friend.
Human trafficking event in September, later this month in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Voices Against Trafficking is having a great event. Anybody who's interested in voices in human trafficking, go to Voices Against Trafficking, and that's where you can see the event.
Sounds good, buddy. We'll definitely do that. God bless you, my friend. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Eric Caron, everybody, put some fire in that house for him. We're so grateful for him. And my goodness, he is a wonderful, wonderful friend. And he's not just a guest to me. He is my buddy. We've known each other almost 7 years now. It's been, actually it'll be going on 8 years next year. I met him in 2018. Late 2018 at a CPAC conference, and the network that I used to be part of briefly that year into 2019, the person that was interviewing Eric didn't want to interview him, and she said, go interview him for me, I don't have time for this. And I said, okay. And it worked out for me because he never was on that network again. And he's been a regular on the McFiles ever since. So I'm grateful he did. And we've just stayed friends, and we've had some fellowship. I've even stayed at his house before, and he's just a good man. I'll put it like this about Eric Caron. Eric Caron's the kind of person, he's the same person when this camera goes off. What you see just now, that's how he is in person. And I respect people like that. I do. I respect people that are just the same when you don't have the lights on them and the cameras. And those are hard to find in this movement sometimes, in this world of social media. Listen, folks, I know it's late tonight. We're not going to come back on tonight. This is going to be it for tonight. We will have a show on Friday night. We've not had one the last 2 Fridays, but we will be back here tomorrow night. We're going to take your questions. There'll probably be a new show, an update. Now, in the event something happens overnight and we get major breaking news, I stay up. I'm a little worn out tonight. I probably won't be up tonight because I've had a long day. We have done 8 shows in the last 18 hours. Going back to the Bible study yesterday morning, the number of shows we've done regarding 9/11 yesterday, today, the special reports we had yesterday. So we're a little worn out, and I'm not going to be back on with you tonight. Good to see everybody in the house, and we're grateful for you all that have been with us tonight. Those are great questions, And Dennis, your statement says all of this just shows that human beings cannot rule themselves. I'm looking forward to the return of Jesus. Dennis, that's a well said point, and you're absolutely right. Mankind is not going to be fixed. This is not going to stop. This violence and this hatred and the things that are going on in this evil world will not stop until Christ comes back, buddy. I'm with you 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I do want to announce we got Carla Nicole coming Monday night. She's not been with us. We talked with her today, and she is Culture of Life 1972. She knew Charlie personally, and she's going to come on. Lori Mills may be with us next week. Lori put out one of the most heartfelt statements tonight on Facebook regarding Charlie, and I really admired what she did. We've got some friends of ours that we're going to introduce you to Tuesday night from Dayton, Ohio, or just north of Dayton, and they're going to be coming. They were directly involved with J6, and Jason Rankin introduced us to them, and we're going to try to get that worked out for Tuesday night. They're going to be with us. You don't want to miss what they went through. Wednesday night be our midweek faith fellowship, and then we've got, of course, James Akers he always comes on once a week. We actually had Ricky Wilson come on this morning and pray for us, and Magdalene Rose will be back. Magdalene will be with me on the radio tomorrow live, so listen to us on K-Star Talk Radio. We're going to be moving the talk radio show to the night time. We're praying about moving it to the night, and that will give us a little bit more energy because the day is just it's like a sore thumb in the day, and I can't get a lot of things done that I need to. But we're going to be working on that, and we may even be simulcasting it with the McFiles while we're doing this. It's going out over radio. We're going to see if we can work that out. That'll give us a set time that we have to do the show every night here, and we'll deal with that. But listen, I'm so grateful that you've been with us tonight. This is the 24th anniversary of 9/11, and I want to just take the final word tonight and tell you that we don't need to forget the lessons of 9/11. And we do not need to forget what happened to this nation. Then it changed the course of history. We as a nation, I don't believe, we've not been the same since. The bureaucracy and the attempt to quelch our freedoms really went into steroids after 9/11. Some of those were necessary, some of them were not. But the left and these people that have been out there, the same group that has been mocking Charlie Kirk's death tonight, they are the same ones that wanted to mask us up, wanted to vaccinate us up, wanted to control us during COVID. They wanted to throw the J6ers in jail when it was not an insurrection. They wanted to remove the MAGA movement off the earth. They wanted to demonize every MAGA conservative. They've done a good job of that because there's people out there, they see a MAGA hat, it just triggers them in public. And you know, the crazy thing about that is that the religion that was behind the 9/11 attacks 24 years ago is a religion that if these same people would try to do that in a Muslim country, they'd have their heads cut off. We live in a free country, and, you know, people being stupid is not unconstitutional. We would hope that people take their freedom and use it wisely, but they don't. We would pray that people not do the things and say the things the left does. And I know the right says some things too sometimes that we just shouldn't do. It doesn't give us a carte blanche card because the left does it, we can do it. Folks, we don't want to sink to their level. And I think, American Patriot, your question tonight was an excellent one. I think that's the challenge going forward. And you ask, what do we do going forward? It's the challenge that we don't want to become like the left. Nate Burleson this morning on CBS, the Constant Bullshit Network, he chastised Republicans and said that we need to tone down our rhetoric. Well, this is the difference in the Republicans and the Dems. We may put a meme out, or we may put a tweet out, or we may put a cartoon out that addresses our frustration with things that are going on the left, but we don't go out shooting people. And we don't go out burning buildings down. And I challenge anybody to find me a situation where the truth is told in that situation, where there's been a person on the MAGA side that has went after some left-wing person in the last, let's go back to Trump, 2016, what is that, 10 years almost? Go back to the 10-year period. Charlottesville was a lie. Everything that the Dems have called and claimed that the right is doing is a complete lie. Elizabeth Warren today said, well, if y'all are going to complain to us about our rhetoric on the left, you need to start with your president and his tweets and memes. Well, if your feelings are so sensitive that a tweet and meme can trigger you, then you need some psychological help. Not that you don't, Pocahontas. But see, the right don't go burning cities down. We get a lot of things shoved in our face. We get a lot of things done to us and said about us. And most of us as Christians, we just suck it up. We take it to the Lord. We let the Lord deal with it. And we put it under the blood. We move on, and we don't like it. And sometimes we have to address some of it. Sometimes we don't. But we don't go out burning buildings and killing people. We don't get high-powered rifles and go out and shoot our enemies. That's not the Christian way. That's never been the Christian way. And I know that there is a lot of rhetoric out there tonight on that X platform, and I've seen it, and I've seen it on the right, and that, this is war, and it is war. But we need to realize this, folks. They're baiting us up to do exactly that. It's not that I'm not saying we don't need to fight, because we need to fight. But fighting is not a word that I mean as we go out there and take guns and start shooting everybody that we see that we don't agree with, because we become them. We become them and they win. But we stand our ground like Charlie Kirk did. Charlie Kirk was brave enough and courageous enough. He shared his faith courageously. That young man was probably the most apostolic, evangelistic voice that this generation has seen. And he didn't have a business card where he called himself either. It's amazing that people that don't identify themselves as certain things, because the individual that wants to try to convince you they're called to do it is likely not called. Charlie Kirk never really bragged about that. He just went out and did it courageously, and he did it in love. He spoke the truth in love at times. It was hard. People didn't want to hear it. People rejected it, but he never stopped, and he always was respectful. It's hard to find anywhere that he was being disrespectful to the people that he disagreed with. I'm old enough to be his father, and that young man taught me lessons. He taught me things at times without him even knowing. He never met me. I never met him. But I had the utmost respect for him. I had a lot of respect for his support of Israel. And in a climate that his age group, most of his age group, was marching and screaming Israel was making genocide and killing babies and starving people to death and kill the Jews and blank the Jews and this and that and the other. Charlie Kirk stood, and he never, ever wavered in his support for the nation of Israel and the Jewish state. He stood up for the rights of the Jewish kids on these campuses that were being harassed. He stood up for his country. But most of all, the one thing that I'm so proud of tonight, his final words, when you get down to it, he gave the gospel to those people in Caron, Utah yesterday. He spoke about Jesus dying on the cross, being resurrected the third day, and that you needed to be saved. And when you made a comment about the transgender community, all was asked, they said, how many murders do you think in the last 10 years have been attributed to transgenderism? He just said, all he said was too many. That's all he said. It was not a snotty comment. He wasn't trying to be ugly. He just said there's too many. And boom, seconds later, that bullet rang out and hit him in the neck. We mentioned the neck issue last night on the Face Show. I don't want to get into all that tonight. If you want to see our take about the neck, go back to the Wednesday Night Face Fellowship. We talked about that last night. That has to do with the church. That has to do with the church. Church could learn a lot of lessons from Charlie Kirk. I know that there are people that nitpicked his faith, just like they nitpicked President Trump's faith. President Trump may have all sorts of issues in people's minds, and he may not be that raging, smug, self-righteous bigot that you are out there tonight, some of you. But I tell you what, President Trump is standing up for his country. He's doing the best he can, and he's got to be the president of all people. He can't just be the president of the Christian world. He just can't be. He's the president of the United States, and we've got a diverse nation, and we've got the nation, folks, tonight that is the nation at large does not worship the true God of heaven. They just don't. But President Trump does. But as president, he's got to be president over all. His personal faith is his business between him and God. And if his personal faith don't meet up to your standards, then maybe the problem is not President Trump. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's you that needs to look in the mirror. Because we're talking about this on these morning Bible studies of how this self-righteous, bigoted spirit destroyed Israel as a nation. It's going to destroy us as a church. And there was a lot of people that they brushed Charlie aside. They just thought this was politics. They just thought this was activism. Every time you see his name being mentioned tonight, he's mentioned as an activist. Charlie Kirk wasn't an activist. He was a hero of the faith. And he was a burning example of how we all need to be. In the face of all of this evil, American patriot, to answer your question, where do we go from here? We learn from Charlie Kirk. We stand and we fight the good fight of faith. We don't fight flesh and blood, but we fight the good fight of faith, and we stand courageously in the face of evil, and we call evil for what it is. We do it in love. We do it under the Lord. We do it to warn people in love, and we do it because we care about people, not that we are doing it to be seen or heard in a marketplace, but we're doing it to change the thinking of a nation that has lost its way with God. Charlie Kirk, I keep calling him Cook. Charlie Kirk went into the devil's hotbed of these colleges and gave his life, literally yesterday, to try to help these young people see the light of Jesus. He wasn't pointing people to Turning Point. He wasn't trying to make them little Charlie Kirks, but his influence was trying to get them to see the God of heaven through him, and he did that courageously. But what I heard about far tonight is his wife and his kids. They're devastated tonight. I want to just give a shout out to our vice president, by the way. You know, I heard so many people, so many Christians, so-called, trash JD Vance like there was no tomorrow. I had people in this chat room that was, I don't trust JD Vance. JD Vance is a sellout. JD Vance this, JD Vance that, and heard all this negativity. Let me tell you what JD Vance, the sellout, did, which is not a sellout. JD Vance took Air Force Two tonight to Utah. They put the body of Charlie Kirk in a coffin, and he flew that casket back to Arizona, his home in Phoenix. Got out of that plane and carried that casket to wherever they're going to take Charlie for the funeral, whatever they're going to do with it. The vice president had other things to do, but he took his time and took that plane and did that for the Kirk family. I want to give a shout out to Van Jefferson tonight. He's a Minnesota Viking receiver. And I've got no respect for the Minnesota Vikings right now for various reasons. But Van Jefferson, if you're listening tonight, I want to tell you, you're a man among men. He's promised, and he's basically pledged to pay all the bills for the Kirk family with the funeral and any living issues that they've got, any money issue they've got. He said, you got a carte blanche. I'm going to help you and get you through this time. And that takes character. That takes integrity to do that. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of my vice president this evening. He's the greatest vice president we've ever had, to be frank with you. And President Trump was right in picking him. And JD, if you're listening to me tonight, go Buckeyes, good job. But let me tell you this, young man, you're our future of this party. And I'm praying that you run in 28. You got my vote. I was not sure if you were going to be the right stuff, but I think you got the right stuff to be president of this nation. And I'm with you. And thank you for showing class tonight and doing what you did for this hero of the faith. How do we move forward, American patriot? I'll tell you how we move forward. We fight the good fight of faith. And we stand firm on the Bible, and we get in the Bible and get grounded and become warriors for Christ tonight and filled with the Holy Spirit. And instead of looking for a thrill, we look to be filled. I said that this morning in the Bible study and amazed myself at the wisdom. But I mean that. Most of the problem is we're looking for a thrill tonight. We're looking for some kind of thing to move us and to cause us to go into meth-induced shakes because of something we hear. And we need to be grounded right now, and we need to recognize the times we're in, and we need to recognize that the days are evil and the time is short, and Jesus is on the way and he's at the door. And that's what we better be concerned about tonight. All this other stuff, folks, what happened yesterday is a harbinger of things to come. It's a harbinger of things to come. If you think this is just the end of this, this is not over. It's just beginning. But we don't get in the ditch with the left to beat the left. No, we fight the good fight of faith. And we put our faith in the God of heaven and through his Son, Jesus Christ, that Charlie Kirk died for yesterday. That's how we go forward. And that's my 2 cents on this Thursday night, the 11th day of September, 2025. 24 years ago, this country was shaken to its core. It didn't change us. We were shaken to our core yesterday. Now we see how this changes us or doesn't. It's on us. And Christians, I'm talking to you tonight. You are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. Start acting like it. And I'm saying this to myself. I'm saying this to all of us tonight. It's time we stopped acting like the world and stopped acting like the left and stopped acting the fool and doing the foolish things we're doing and believing, and fight the good fight of faith and be grounded and soberly minded in these hours that we live before Jesus comes. God bless you. God bless your families, and God bless this great nation of America. Our prayers tonight, again, for the Kirk family. We'll have more coverage tomorrow night. If we get any news, we'll pass it on. Thank you all for being with me tonight. If you enjoyed Eric Caron, and if you enjoyed the host, don't worry about the host. If you enjoyed Eric Caron, Christopher McDonald tells you to put some fire in that house. And I'll see you back here in the morning. We start again tomorrow. Do it all again. God bless you out there tonight, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Our prayers for President Trump and this nation. And I mean that. Boy, do we need it tonight. May the Lord bless you, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.